pai o tēnā tātou. Tēnā tātou me ngā kōrero o te pōnei. Pai o koutou nei urunga, koutou nei kuunga ki roto i tēnei o ngā kōrero o te ai pō, o te pō anōra. Nō reira, tēnei kami i atu rā ki a koutou. Ka timatake rā tātou kōrero mo te ai pō nei ki te karakia. Nō reira, ko iri ngā nuku, ko iri ngā rangi, ko iri ngā te kōrero, ko iri ngā te wānanga, ko iri ngā tau, ko iri ngā taketake ki te oiao, ki te o mārama, e rongo e o kiri ake kiro ngā tūturu o ka maua kia tīna, ui e, tai ki e. Ka pai o tēnā tātou. Just be admitting people as they come in to the waiting room. But we've got our next wānanga this evening in terms of our karakia kaupapa that we've been running throughout these last number of months. So of course, we've had a number of wānanga that we've run, and those who haven't yet seen, we do have the recordings on our YouTube channel that you can access via our website. So if you just jump onto a website and you see the media link there, then you'll be able to go onto our YouTube channel. So I thought that I'll just take us quickly back through the karakia that we looked at last month, and then just put a little bit of time into the karakia for this month, for October. Again, if you want to view what was discussed last month in more detail, you're more than welcome to do that through the video that's on our YouTube channel. But I'll quickly go through just to, because that's the karakia that I started off with tonight. So ko hiri ngā nuku, ko hiri ngā rangi, ko hiri ngā te kōrero, ko hiri ngā te wānanga, ko hiri ngā tau, ko hiri ngā taketake ki te oiao, ki te o mārama. So those who were part of our discussion last month will recall that hiringa in this context is in relation to the energies, the dynamic type of energies, and one of the images that I that tends to come to mind when I think of hiringa within this context is the energy that you see within the division of a cell. So when you see a cell starting to divide, and you see all that energy within the cell, and then you see the division of that, the energy within those cells is what I see when I think of these particular, when I think of hiringa within this particular context. So of course, energies in relation to those earthly energies, those tangible energies. So hiringa nuku, energies in relation to those intangible energies, unworldly energies, things that we can't see, things that we can't physically touch. When we've discussed nuku and rangi previously, I've used the imagery of the body. So from the shoulders down, nuku, everything to do with labor, everything to do with with doing the work. If we use mara as an example, it's being able to have the energy to dig, energy to plant. Whereas if we're using nuku from the shoulders up, it's more around the knowledge and the understandings required in order to know when to do the plantings, what type of vegetables planted at a particular point in time, what type of stars do we look for, the weather patterns to ensure that we are planting at the right time and the right seasons. So that's what comes to mind when I'm thinking of hiringa nuku, hiringa rangi. Hiringa te kōrero, so of course the energy, the dynamism around discussion, deliberation, around debate and dialogue. Hiringa te wānanga, the energy and the dynamism that is created through consideration, contemplation of a particular kaupapa, debating as well in order to understand different perspectives, different point of views, and then to come to a common understanding. So ko hiringa tau, when these energies are settled, when you've found a common goal, when you've found a commonality or common theme, and ko hiringa take ki ta wai o te ao marama, then having the platform to then launch forward into this world that we all know, te ao hurihuri, te wai o te ao marama. So that's just a little bit of a quick kōrero around the karakia from last month. So of course, hiringa is the key concept within that particular karakia. We've been using this one quite a bit in the office and just out and about because I quite like what it references, and it applies to a number of different situations that we find ourselves in terms of the mahi that we do. So in terms of its application, again, like most of the other karakia, it's quite a versatile karakia, this one. Can be used as both an opener and a closer. Definitely a good karakia when there's two parties or a number of parties that are there for a common goal, and then you're trying to find a common understanding to then move a kaupapa forward. So that's our karakia for last month. I'll go on to our karakia for this month. Some of you may already be quite familiar with this one. It's one that you hear in Taranaki. It's one that we were teaching in terms of the mara, but it has references to this particular time of year, which is what we've got it in our calendar for October. So if I go through it, ka tangi te kawa wai o kia tangi ana, ka tangi te wārauroa wai o kia tangi ana, e tatari atu ana ki aroaro maana, ka taka mai te uru koi. So of course, we'll see some very familiar words such as tangi, kawe and wārauroa. Those are, of course, for those who are aware, will know that they're a particular type of bird. And I'll bring up some images for the bird and play some of the calls of the bird as well, just in case you have seen them or that you might see them. So these are two particular birds that you tend to see around this time of year, around the springtime. So August, September coming into October. This tends to be their mating time. So it's around this time that you'll start to hear the calls. People that I've spoken to have currently been hearing a bit of the whārauroa and the call of that bird. You may hear whārauroa also being referenced as pipi whārauroa. You may also hear kawe being referenced as koia. So these are just different words that you'll hear these birds being referenced, but within this particular karakia, these are the other words, or the names that we use for these particular two manu. So ka tangi te kawe wai o kia tangi ana. The kawe will call, leave the kawe to do its call, because it's carrying a particular message. It's the message of spring, and it's part of its mating call as well. Ka tangi te wārauroa, wai o kia tangi ana, so the same kind of structure. The whārauroa, the pipi wārauroa is chirping, allow that particular manu to do its chirping. Here you hear other words as well in terms of the chirping of a bird. The common one that you tend to hear is kōrihi. So manu kōrihi, for example. So kōrihi is a common term that you'll hear for the calling of a bird. Here in Taranaki, you may also hear the word waraki. Waraki is another word that's used here for the chirping of a bird. So tangi, kōrihi, waraki, all an indication of the chirping of the birds. E tatari atu ana ki aroaro maana. So we then wait for aroaro maana is a real nice way of referring to the warmer months, the summer months. So when we have a focus of warmth, then the earth is starting to warm up. So e tatari atu ana ki aroaro maana. We then wait for the arrival of the warm months. Ka taka mai te a uru, ko ia. And then descends upon us the time of serenity, the time of comfort, time of warmth. And now is the time to start moving. Now is the time to start preparing for those warmer months. So if we take this in the context of a mara, we'd want to ensure that now's the time that we have our taiwa already down. Now's the time that we want to ensure that we have our gardens ready. So when it comes to the warmer months, the clay that's been grown in the mara can then benefit from the warming of the earth. So again, ka tangi te kawekawea, wai o kia tangi ana. The kawekawea will sing, allow the kawekawea to sing its waiata, or to call its call. Ka tangi te wārauroa, wai o kia tangi ana. The wārauroa will sing, allow the wārauroa to sing its waiata. E tatari atu wana ki aroaro maana, we then wait and hold for the coming of the warmth, the coming of the warmer months, of the warming of the earth. Ka taka mai te a uru, ko ia. And then the descending of the serenity, the descending of the warmth, the descending of the comfort. And now it's time. Now it's time to move. Now it's time to get things ready. When we consider those particular types of bird, the kawekawea and the wārauroa, so this is what they look like. So this is the kawekawea or the koikoia. They're both cuckoos. So on the left, the kawekawea is a long-tailed cuckoo, and on the right is the wārauroa or the pipi wārauroa, and that's the shining cuckoo. But even if you search shining cuckoo call and long-tailed cuckoo call, you'll be able to hear the different distinct calls. Here locally, we've been hearing a bit more of the wārauroa, the pipi wārauroa, as opposed to the kawekawea. To briefly touch on migration, so of course it's around this time of year when we see them and when we hear them. They tend to be here for a number of months and departing around that March period, so towards the end of summer, and then they go and migrate. So here we see the kawekawea on the left there. Starts off the breeding range in Aotearoa, the red circle, has stopover points, which is the orange circles or the orange oval, and then tends to settle down for the winter in either the blue or the green zones. So we can see that the kawekawea tends to make a bit more of a different journey to the wārauroa on the right-hand side. Wārauroa, of course, while they both breed at the same place and around the same time, it tends to have a stopover in the Australian area, the northeast of Australia, and then carries on up into the Solomon Islands. And then it makes its trek back to Aotearoa around the August and September period. Those who are a little familiar with cuckoo will know how they rear their young. So of course the cuckoo doesn't rear its own young. It places its egg in the nest of another bird, and that bird rears its young as a foster parent, believing, of course, that's their young. So on the left here, we have the long-tailed cuckoo, or the kawekawea, or koikoia, and that's been raised by a upukotea, or a whitehead. So we can see the size in comparison to that manu. It's about 3-4 times the size of the little whitehead or upukotea. You may hear it also being called pōpukotea. There's a number of different kupu for the whitehead. But there, of course, we can see that we have the little upukotea that's feeding the big kawekawea. So what tends to happen is that as the kawekawea or the wārauroa, as they start to hatch, they'll then push out the eggs of the host bird, and then it ends up just being them who are raised in its nest. Here on the right-hand side, of course, we have the shining cuckoo, the wārauroa, who's being fed by the riroriro, or the grey warbler. So again, we can see that's about 4 to 6 times the size of the little grey warbler, of the riroriro, but the riroriro takes care of the chicks for the pārauroa, or the pipi wārauroa. So it's quite an interesting relationship that these birds have with their young, but that's how their young are raised. They're raised by other birds, and then at that point, when they're ready to go around the February-March period, they then follow the migratory patterns of their parents. Yeah, so that's just a little bit around what they look like in relation to these two birds. If you are out in the bush a little bit, you might come across these. Sometimes the kawekawea can be mistaken for the New Zealand falcon or the hawk type bird, but it's a smaller bird. It's about 30-40 centimeters in length. But it's more the brown colour that tends to why people mistaken it for another type. The wārauroa, of course, is quite distinct. If you see this particular bird and you see the white feathers with the black trim, you see the green on top, you know that that's wārauroa, pipi wārauroa. But again, both of those being two types of cuckoo. So again, these two birds are indicators for us as people, indicators for time of year, indicators of our taiao and things that happen within our taiao during this time of year, indicators for us in terms of gardening and being able to start preparing our gardens, getting things into the ground ready for the warmer periods, and indicators as well for us as a people to start getting moving, to get prepared for the summer months. So our kawekawea and our wārauroa. Again, seeing our migratory patterns for those two birds, and the host manu that take care of ngā pipi. So the upokotea, or the whitehead, and the riroriro, or the grey warbler. So again, coming back to our karakia, ka tangi te kawekawea, wa o kia tangi ana. So we hear the call of the kawekawea, or the long-tailed cuckoo, and we leave that manu to call its call, because it's indicator of what's happening, or it's indicator for us for this particular time of year. Ka tangi te wārauroa, wai o kia tangi ana. We hear the call of the shining cuckoo, and we leave that shining cuckoo to make its call, because again, it's an indicator for us for this particular time of year. Whether we're gardeners or whether we like to be out on the ocean, there's certain plants that we'll plant during this time of year. There's certain fish that will be caught during this time of year. So of course, we've just come off the inanga season. But again, this would have been an indicator. Once you hear those calls, you know that these particular type of fish will be coming in, or it's time to go out and fish for a particular type of fish, or dive for a particular type of kai. But when we talk about indicators, it's all about kai and survival and well-being, which is effectively one of the underpinning tones of this karakia. It's all about our well-being, all about our health and our sustainability as a people, and ensuring that we are taking note of some of these indicators that we see in our taiao, whether the indicators in terms of birds, whether the trees are blossoming, or particular type of tree is blossoming at this time of year, whether we see a particular flower that's starting to grow. These are all indicators that things are changing, things are transitioning within our environment. New kaias come in, ability to plant new plants for the warmer months. We also see new stars in the evening sky, indicators as well that this is a particular time of year for certain work to happen. E tatari atu ana ki aroaro maana. We then wait for the coming of the warmth, and the warmth from the sun, the warmth from the summer months, but also the warming of the earth. Kataka mai te uru koia. Then descends upon us this time of comfort, this time of serenity, this time of warmth, where we have longer days, we do more within a day, and when we're in these warmer months with longer days, there are different emotions that well up within us, and we want to do more. We feel a need to be outdoors more. And koia in this regard is more that it's time to move. Let's get prepared for these warmer months that are yet to come. In terms of the closing of the karakia, I tend to hear koia as the close, and then that's it. I have heard others as well wrap it up with tūturu wakamaua ki o tīna or those types of closing. But you can just finish it at koia, and that would be fine. Application, as I mentioned earlier, this is a karakia that we used for the gardening when we were teaching tamariki around the mara. So it's really useful for that. It's useful just around, now's the time to start thinking ahead. Now's the time to start planning for the next coming months. So if you're coming into a planning session, well, the hui that you're attending is more about what's going to happen in these coming months. We need to ensure that we're prepared. This is a good karakia for that, because this is the context of the karakia itself. So again, real versatile karakia like the other karakia are. It can be used in opening and in closing. As we say with the rest of the karakia, the only times we probably wouldn't use them is at a tangi or during kai, because those particular times have their own type of karakia. But this one is a lovely karakia for this summer period. Spring period coming into summer. I haven't heard it outside of Taranaki, but it doesn't mean that others outside of Taranaki don't do it. But I've tend to hear it more inside Taranaki or down Wellington, for example, with our Karakia Wānanga down there. But yeah, real lovely karakia. This one, a good addition to your repertoire if you have been learning these karakia within the calendar. And just some good visuals in terms of the kawekawea and the wārauroa, the aroaro maana and the understanding of that. And now it's time to move. Now it's time to get ready for these warmer months that are ahead of us. Any pātai, any kōrero to add to that? So Chris is just asking how te take o te karakia. Kaya koe te taki. Engari, I tend to hear it, the way that I've heard it is more ka tangi te kawekawea wai o kia tangi an. Ka tangi te wārauro wai o kia tangi an. E tatari atu ana ki aroaro maana kataka mai te uru koia. So that's one way that you can, hear it in terms of its taki. So again, ka tangi te kawekawea wai o kia tangi an. Ka tangi te wārauro wai o kia tangi an. E tatari atu ana ki aroaro maana kataka mai te uru koia. So it's just a nice little session on this karakia, 20-30 minute session just to go through it. not taking up too much of your time during the evening, but just a good opportunity to gain some insight into one of our karakia for our maramataka. So we've got 2 more sessions coming up, one on the 2nd of November and one on the 14th of December. And we might make that one on the 14th of December a little bit longer, just as an opportunity to revisit some of the kōrero. We have Te Rao Te Rangihiroa coming up as well, so we'll be looking at discussing some of these karakia during then, so that's 26th of November. So we'll have Pānui coming out, and that'll be held at the park. We've also got, November's quite a busy month here in Taranaki. We've got Tū Mai coming up on the 5th and 6th of November. So hopefully some of you guys have had a chance to register for that and will be joining us. We've got about 330 registered from memory. So good opportunity for us to defend the title that we won in 2019. So even if you haven't registered, it's just a great opportunity to come and be a part of this kaupapa. We're also hosting the Karakia Wānanga Māori Rugby League as well here at Tikorangi in Waitara, and that happens on the 19th and 20th of November. And then after that, the weekend after that is then Te Rangihiroa Day. So just a couple of kaupapa that's happening for us in November. But hopefully you guys are receiving our emails and are on our Facebook page, and we'll ensure that you guys that everyone's updated through those means. Nō reira. Ko ia rā, ko tātou I tēnei pō, tēnei ahia I pō. Ko kōrero tia ke tia e tātou e pāna ki tēnei karakia, ka tangi te kawe a. Nō reira, tēnei kami atu rā kia koutou ko uru mai ki roto I tēnei ware kōrero mo te ahia I pō nei. Nō reira, ka kape ake rā tēnei kōrero, tēnei wānanga ki te karakia, ka take atu rā te karakia ko akungia e tātou I tēnei wā. Nō reira, ka tangi te kawe a wai o kia tangi ana. Ka tangi te wāraro wai o kia tangi ana. E tatari atu ana ki aroaro maana ka taka mai te auru ko ia. Nō reira, tēnā koutou e te wāna, pō Māori e.